Well, I guess this is one of the drawbacks to relying on sunlight as your natural lighting for your videos, because if you're trying to film during a thunderstorm, you don't get a whole lot of extra light. So yeah, bear with me as we dive into a new album that I find not a whole lot of people are talking about or even know about. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Give 'em my love. Give 'em my love.
From The New World by Alan Parsons. So, Alan Parsons, I don't really think needs a proper introduction, but for those of you not in the know, Alan Parsons made it big in the 70s, being kind of like a big producer of music and teaming up with Eric Wolfson to create the Alan Parsons Project. Even then, he still has like that predominant prestige as the person for producing a lot of really standout and groundbreaking albums, most notably Dark Side of the Moon from Pink Floyd. So the man is a master not only in front of the camera, but also behind the camera in terms of the mixing. Since like about the mid to late 80s, broke away from the Alan Parsons Project and has just done his own little thing with Alan Parsons, his own stuff. Starting with Try Anything Once in 1993, followed up with On Air in 1996, and The Time Machine in 1997. From there, he kind of took a hiatus after The Valid Path in 2004 and didn't come back to the scene until 2019 with The Secret, which was fine. I mean, it was typical kind of like that late 70s soft rock, yacht rock kind of a essence. And so now we have the new frontier, the new album from The New World. And if you've heard The Secret, or if you've heard any of Alan Parsons' like music within the Alan Parsons Project or his solo work, there's nothing too different at this stage in the game. And I also feel like, I don't know, like Alan Parsons is kind of one of those artists that don't really need to try to break the mold, if you know what I'm saying, because like he helped create part of the mold in terms of like the late 70s, very soft rock, very yacht rock in that kind of a sense. So yeah, I don't think he's going to, redefine a genre at this point of his career. Because what he does extremely well. He creates atmosphere, he creates very soft and mellow ballads, lots of overlays of harmonies, lots of textures, and great mixing. Like, this album is superbly mixed and mastered. The album opens up with Fare Thee Well, and it starts off almost like this arena rock that we would hear from like Asia or, some almost like hair bands with this really interesting and echoed overlaid guitar work that breathes forth into this really powerful and really juicy crescendo of music. It's just once we get into it, we kind of get that same kind of like Air Supply style of music that's I can kind of take or leave. But I will even say, like, even at this stage of his career, Alan Parsons isn't afraid to try just something a little bit different. Like The Secret has the starting guitar riff that sounds very much like Soundgarden or some other grunge style of music, but it's always within more of the subdued tones. Like, it's definitely not the blow down the door style of it. And once the original like introduction of The Secret starts off, once we get into the meat and potatoes of the track, you're not really doing anything too extravagant, too mold breaking in that kind of sense. I do kind of like the overlay effects of the vocal works on this. Again, behind the scenes, Alan Parsons is meticulous in terms of detail, providing just the right little bit of spice to kind of bring forth the different types of sounds that he wants, especially within something that most people shy away from adding overlay, especially within the soft rocks landscape of the vocal works. Really interesting how he's using like this echo effect, this bringing over of timbre and lowering the bass completely out of it, so it sounds like it's coming through a phone, and it provides like a really nice harmonizations within the lead vocals that's kind of found around it. And I really like how the track kind of ebbs and flows. It feels very much like a Beatles track, and I mean, Alan Parsons was in the studio when the Beatles were doing the whole Let It Be session stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that he's like leaning back on, the late 60s style of Beatles. But I'm also feeling like Revolver or Rubber Soul in that kind of sense, especially within the harmonizations and how we're going from note to note within the note sequences. And if we're talking about like the guitar works, the third track of Ouroboros that features Tommy Shaw from Styx really does have like this almost Devin Townsend arpeggio that leads the song into effect. And I mean, you gotta tip your hat off to Tommy Shaw for being able to master that. And it does feel and sound exactly like a Devin Townsend arpeggio. I'm loving how they're using that in context to the overall song structure and the song works. I like how this track is a little bit more meaty. I like how it's a little bit more rocking in this sense. And Tommy is able to really inflect a lot of different aspects, not only within his guitar work, but also within his vocal range. Especially once we get into that chorus, where he's saying this Ouroboros. Like, it's very tangible. It's very meaty. It's something that Styx would do. That very grandiose, very big sound. Really enjoy Ouroboros, and probably being the most rockin' track of the whole bunch, which, it's kind of saying something, because Ouroboros isn't blow down the doors or really kick up the volume and turn it to 11. Because after Ouroboros, it does start to fade, especially with Don't Fade Now, which is kind of funny if you think about it, and Give 'Em My Love. And even though Give 'Em My Love has a lot of prominent guest appearances on it, like Joe Bonamassa and James Durbin, it's still Give 'Em My Love is such a dud. It's so boring. There's nothing really exciting about it. It's just very soft rock for the sake of soft rock. I'm not a fan of that. Same with Don't Fade Now. At least with Don't Fade Now, even though it's subdued, it's slower, it's very somber in approach, there's still something to kind of glean out of it. It's not until we get to Obstacles, the 6th track, that it starts to bump up a little bit more, and it's only really within the song structure that I appreciate it. Again, a lot of it is just due to the harmonizations within the vocal range. It's the overlay of vocals on it. It sounds almost like a Klaatu track, the Canadian rock group from the 70s that everybody mistook for the Beatles. I at least like that there's a little bit more emotion on this. We're getting a little bit of life put into it. Unfortunately, then we come back into I Won't Be Led Astray. Again, this has Joe Bonamassa on it with Mike Larson and David Pack. Not a big fan of this track. It doesn't really do too much. It's just kind of more of the same. Same with You Are the Light. Again, it's just kind of a dud in my mind. It doesn't do anything. We're kind of 2 tracks in this kind of dry wasteland of I'm wishing for a little bit more. I want just a little bit more tangibility in this. And it isn't until we get to Halos that things once again pick up again. And a lot of it has to do with this really intricate style of rhythms. There's a lot of rhythmic patterns going on within the guitar works. And we have more of that arpeggios going on within the guitars. And it sounds how Deconstruction from Devin Townsend started off. It's got that build to it. And I really love that build and that climb. It doesn't, resolve kind of the same way that Devin Townsend's work does, but at least it has something meaty. It has something different. And then the album proper closes with Going Home, and it's a serviceable one. Again, we have a lot more emotion on it, very similar to Obstacles, but this one's a little bit more somber. It's a lot less raging of oh man, I've got all these obstacles that I got to overcome, and I would do any kind of obstacle in order to get to you. At least with Going Home, it has this wanting. It has this yearning of I'm almost home. I'm going to where I'm comfortable at. This whole journey will be worth it if I can just go home. I really enjoyed the closing piece. It's very heartfelt. It's very emotive in that case. And it closes off the album fairly serviceable. Then we have a cover of Be My Baby from the Ronettes, and it's fine. I love the original. Can't really go wrong with the source material on that sense. You can really screw it up, but as long as you pretty much keep the basics, it's fine. And it was, I enjoyed it. It's a fun little bonus track off of this. In the end, From the New World from Alan Parsons isn't really all that new, if I'm being honest. It's kind of a nice, light rock, mid-afternoon kind of an album. If you want something that's not too challenging, if you want something that's really, really well produced, really, really well mixed, and pleasant to listen to, you're not going to be disappointed with this one. But if you're looking for something that challenges you a little bit, that's, trying something very different or very new, or breathes new life into an old style of music, you are probably going to be disappointed. And I think a lot of it has to do with how the tracks are arranged on this, where we have the first 3 tracks being pretty strong, the next 2 tracks being complete dud. You have a little bit of a up thing with Obstacles, another 2 duds, and then the last 2 tracks or last 3 tracks being pretty interesting. The one saving grace for this that, at least I would say I would give this a light recommendation is that it's fairly short. It's 45 minutes, so you're not wasting a whole lot of time. But yeah, unless you're a fan of this style of music, unless you're a fan of the yacht rock or the really soft rock from the late 70s, early 80s, You could probably do without this one without losing too much sleep. If you're a fan of this style of music, I would say give it a listen, give it a try. There might be something that's interesting for you, but I will probably say that Alan Parsons' best work is probably behind him. But again, Alan Parsons is the kind of person that you're not really expecting him to change the game at this point. It's for that reason that I would say that From the New World from Alan Parsons is still one that I would stream. Like I said, this gets like a soft recommendation for anybody that likes this kind of music. But if you're not into this style of music, yeah, don't waste your time. Just kind of skip it. So yeah, that's where I'm at for this album. What did you guys think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Have you heard it? Because I've asked a couple of people what they thought about this album, and everybody's surprised that Alan Parsons put out a new album. So here's me telling you that he's got a new album out. And it's an album. So yeah, let me know all you thought by commenting down below. And that's all I got for you guys today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.